Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show, Kicking It. I'm your host, Rob. My guest with me tonight is the real Dr. V, coming over from the great Midwest. Of course, I'm broadcasting to you from the Pinos Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. And Doctor, I got to tell you, if I just popped in my Camaro or my Trans Am and I hopped up I-75 to the Turnpike and then maybe I-10 and then cut over to 95 and went up, maybe you could tell me which road I need to take up to get to you, so I give you some Coors beer. How does that taste?
As long as I bring old Fred with me.
By that, of course, the doctor means we're talking about the 1977 classic and 70s classic in general, and a beloved movie, Smokey and the Bandit, starring Burt Reynolds, Sally Field, Jackie Gleason, several others. Really interesting film. And one of the reasons why we're deciding to cover this is because I strongly suspect that may be on my list, the doctor's list, or I don't think for my Love Comics list, as after this stream, we're going to be doing our top 10 movies of 1977 at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So, Doctor, initial thoughts about this movie, please.
Initial thoughts. I'll give you a lot of thoughts on this movie. This movie is, if you're a car guy, this is your movie. And number one, so you got a Trans Am, souped up Trans Am. Number two, you got Sally Fields, 30-year-old Sally Fields, hot Sally Fields. Number three, you got Burt Reynolds. And that laugh, dude, he does. I mean, this is basically like if we took the same concept for basically, what was it called? Dukes of Hazzard. But instead of having two brothers, in a Dodge Charger, we got one guy in a Trans Am with a girl, and basically they're just running booze from Georgia all the way over to Texas.
Yeah, so obviously if anybody hasn't heard the movie or they've just heard the name, it's basically what it is Smokey and the Bandit. Okay, they're two buddies that are running illegally speaking. They're going over to a place, Texarkana in Texas, to get some Coors beer because there's something about Coors beer that was special. Like it had a certain shelf life, but also you could only get it and you had to transport it back to some rich dude's party that he wanted. So basically it was illegal trucking. So
yeah,
whatever. It's the 70s. Things may be a little different now, but it's just kind of, yeah.
East of Texas was going into Georgia was considered bootlegging, and that's what their law. In this movie, I don't know if as far as real life, but in the movie, that's the concept of all this, and they just want to get it done within 28 hours, and it's never been done before because people get caught. So, and they got the two get. What's funny is this movie just starts off and it's just one zinger after another zinger. It's got that good old boys, Dukes of Hazzard kind of feel to it, And you're throwing Burt Reynolds in there. Burt Reynolds he's just got charisma, and I just love it. He knows he's like, basically, this is Chuck Norris. If Chuck Norris didn't know how to do karate, you get Burt Reynolds.
I don't get it, but okay, go.
He's a man's man. He's like, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to show off, and he does it well. He gets the girls. He knows how to drive.
Yeah, obviously the Trans Am, like you said, is really, really popular from here too. And the one thing I was going to say, the Trans Am was really popular in the whole driving stuff. But for me, my initial thoughts was that I rewatched it early this morning, and it must have been 25, 30 years since I've seen this movie. And I saw it probably when I was 8 or 9 years old, when I was really, really young. And I'm going, if you had asked me yesterday, what scenes to remember? I go, I think I remember this. I think I remember that. But as I watched this, I went, holy crap, I know everything that's going to happen and what they're going to say. And because I had seen it so much, I guess, when I was young, because it's one of those types of films that there's no real depth to it. There's nothing really going on. They quickly get the beer and are going back. And of course, he picks up, a bride that kind of left the altar. And the person she was going to marry is the son of the guy that's chasing them, which is Jackie Gleason. And what I got to say is aside from lots of language and some Southern type language and stuff, and the 70s, of course, clothing, although ladies wore, Jackie Gleason, oh my God. I mean, I always thought he was a bit of a goof, but this guy nails it. And as a kid, I just didn't really see it that much. I was more enamored by the Trans Am and the driving, and of course the CB70 stuff that we've talked about recently on Breaker and other movies we've recovered. But yeah, I just went, wow, this is just a simple, fun movie that most people can go see. It's not trying to be anything more than that. And I think to the point you mentioned with Burt Reynolds having charisma, you just want to watch him on screen. You don't care literally pun intended, what vehicle it is, just as long as he's doing something and it works. And since most of this movie was ad-libbed, there's a certain chemistry with him and Jerry Reed, his partner, on there. And he's an authentic country boy. It really comes across. And even to this day, you get to watch it, you're like, yeah, it seems like a Southern kind of dopey film, but it's fun and it's enjoyable. And we're not talking about 2 or 3, that came out years later. We're just talking about this one. But this thing was a monster. The only thing that beat it out was Star Wars. So, yeah, it was just, I remember as a kid being big and even growing up going, why do people keep talking about this movie? It's one of those movies that people are going to be like, man, you got to see Smokey and the Bandit. I feel like having fun. Let me just watch it and enjoy. It's enjoyable.
Dude, this movie made Trans Ams popular that year. And even through the 80s, people wanted the Trans Am. They wanted Smokies. Or they wanted the Bandits. They wanted his Trans Am with the eagle on it. Jerry Reed is also in here. Also, I'm going to mention him. Famous country singer. In here plays Cledus Snow. He's the guy driving the truck. And then with his basset hound named Fred.
Yeah, and I totally forgot that they had Fred and they even brought Fred. But as soon as you went to the bar there with Fred and they got his ass beat, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I'm like, how can I remember something I haven't seen in 20 years? And it's not like it's one of those movies that leaves you shaken to the core. You're like, oh my God, there's so much to this. It speaks to something larger in life. No, it's the opposite. You're like, yeah, it's pretty simple. That's it.
And some funny things about this. So there's like Fred, the basset hound, was picked personally by Burt Reynolds because he did not obey commands well. So when he went in the water, that was true.
Where he's like, Fred, come here while you're going away from me. Yeah, what we say, come here, Jerry Reed's chasing them.
You're right. But like I said, I mean, if you're not paying attention, throughout the movie, that is Jerry Reed singing all these songs.
Yep, he's bound it down. Major hit of his. It became one of his signature tunes. And the thing about country music at that time, it wasn't as sanitized as music is. It has been for say the past 20 to 30 years or so. There's definitely very notable types of country. The tear in my beer, sad stuff. Then there's the honky tonk kind of stuff. And Jerry Reed always played a little bit of that kind of up tempo style where it was a little bit of a he's a good guitarist. I say that because my father was a guitarist, as a musician, and we used to talk all these different guitarists. And the one thing about him is if you go back and watch his old videos on YouTube, he's got what they call the chicken plucking style or like that, chicken fingers, whatever. There's a lot of different names for it here in the South, but basically you're using like a slightly modified pentatonic scale with like a flat 6 if you're a music guy, but you're using all your fingers to pluck while you're strumming and everything else there too. It's got a great country kind of hillbilly sound to it, and it's really neat. And his voice, you go, wow, the guy's not belting out the tunes, but he can carry a tune. His voice is, fine. But for what he's doing, it fits, and it's so good. And I can't imagine when anybody says country, not thinking of Smokey and the Bandit or the South or the Trans Am or that damn song of his that I'm sure we're going to be talking about later tonight. He's found it down, and the love song with the Bandit where him and Sally Field
his wife at the time, actually.
Make sweet, sweet love, out in the woods, but they don't show us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was his wife, man. She that they've only been married for but they probably just got married the year before this movie came out. Till up to 2018, I think that's when he actually was that when he died? Did he die around
a couple years ago? Reynolds, Jerry Reed. I'd have to look that up. I don't know if he's still alive or not, honest.
So. Oh no! Wait, they weren't married. They were together. They never got married. Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh, well, there's a good rule of thumb that I've tried mentioning to you as we've jokingly talked about CBs with Breaker from Chuck Norris and how it was a thing for a while. While that's a really prominent in this movie, and we're talking cars, the old rule of thumb is you never ever buy the Ferrari, you just rent it. So Burt Reynolds in the 70s, he could drive whatever he wanted to. You know what I'm saying?
And you never let a woman drive your car. Did you see what happened in this movie?
I did indeed.
She drove right through the freaking dugout.
Yeah, and I think the thing with the movie is that we talked about, I think it's 72, 73 time with Burt Reynolds' Deliverance. And we talked about how the movie's kind of one thing and that somehow might seem like it's another as you're watching it. It seems a little dark in parts to it. Not the rape scene, but just, you know, survival. And we like Burt Reynolds being studly and macho or whatever. This is, I think, the template, because any of the movies coming after us, like Cannonball Run, which is a goofy road movie, and other things too, even though he's got some cool stuff for quite some time after this, this is the ultimate Burt Reynolds movie as far as a template for what he does, how he looks, the mustache, the look, the driving, the laugh, as you said earlier. You could just break this up in a bunch of different parts, repackage it, just throw Burt Reynolds in there and some of his buddies, and you get the Cannonball Run, which I loved that as a kid when I was a movie, or when I was a kid. I love that as a movie too. And I just go, I wonder how many, without having put a lot of thought into it, movies are based off this movie.
We were talking about this before we got online. Sally Field was actually only 30 years old when this movie was made. Where you're saying like, well, she looks like she's 18. Well, yes. The reason she looks so young because, well, Burt Reynolds is 10 years older than her. He was age 40. So that's why he looks much older than her. That's why she looks so young compared to him.
I could see that. And she's got a very girl next door type look. She's not ugly at all. She's got a cute body. There's not a lot of fat people in this film. She makes a comment about her legs and all that. Well, think about the line he says when she's taking her clothes off and she's changing in the car. Where he says something, oh, you got fat calves. And she's like, what? I'm a professional dancer, which means, Broadway doesn't mean stripping. And it's like, your legs are bigger than mine. Can you imagine if that was in a movie today? Oh my God, people would get so triggered. And we're talking about
everything he was saying is like, it's like, oh, it's like, oh, she's like, I'm a professional. It's, oh, you're one of those workers. She's like, no, bro, so gypsy dancer. Like, oh, he's like, oh, because I thought she was a hooker or a stripper. But this whole movie is like, is this one-liners and like him and just basically he's carefree. He does what he wants to do. If you don't like it, and he goes, oh well, I got more girls on along the way. And that's proven. There's a lot of girls that are hitting on him on the CB, hot pants included.
Yeah, and then even the whorehouse on the side of the road that the cops were visiting at the end.
What was the other one? The girl's name with Little Beaver or something like that? In the trunk. It's like, this is a guy's movie. This is definitely a guy's movie. I mean, yes, girls don't watch it too, but there's a scene of romance in here. But the majority of this movie is a guy's. I'll admit that, And today's, I guess people would be offended by this. But you know what really triggered people about this? There's a Confederate flag on the license plate.
I didn't want to bring that up, but I did notice it. The only thing I was going to say, roughly along those lines, is that, like I say, not much of a plot. Yeah, okay, we just basically mentioned that a little bit because there's not much to it. Go get beer, get it back in 28 hours.
Yeah.
Zoo. I mean, that's it.
Well, of course.
And of course, they're successful. But the thing with this movie is what I've been hearing is that, okay, without really segueing into it, I think most of us are keenly aware that there's always censorship of some form, editing, whatever you want to call it, with the pay channels that are out there. And we saw where allegedly Back to the Future had gotten a wrong print, or Netflix had gotten a wrong print, or a different one that, out of Back to the Future 2 didn't have like the nudie pic scene in there, even though it's just a girl, whatever, covered up. They had edited that out and they said, oh, it was a mistake, it was a wrong cut. And then, of course, with Gone with the Wind, the issues that have been going on with that recently, and the censoring and the browbeating before, it's one thing to get a movie and say it's rated PG, G, R, whatever you're going to call it. It's another thing for everyone to sit there and say there's graphic violence, there's smoking, there's adult thing. I don't want a friggin' disclaimer. I want to watch the damn movie. And in this movie, I've heard there's been a lot of sanitization of the language in this film. And I think, to your point, I'm not sure if there's a cut out there that we'd even hide the Confederate flag, but if for some reason Smokey and Bandit started getting trending, I can definitely see where if Netflix got a hold of it, they would edit a lot of stuff out. And you're missing that because here in the South, everybody said some bitch. They didn't say son of a bitch. They'd go some bitch. And it was just like one real quick thing. You get that in this movie. And Jackie Gleason, he ad-libbed a lot of stuff, and he uses the F word, for somebody being homosexual, which that was commonplace everywhere. Don't we hear it too much more these days,
I love the fact that he's like, he's swearing at the cop, and the cop is like, how don't you dare use that language from my son right here.
And he's driving around half the movie with the hood chopped off the car, and his idiot son sitting there holding his hat on top.
And then even when they get out of the car, he's still holding the hand on his head.
It's so stupid. That's got to be a fun role to do.
This is got, like I said, this is like your Dukes of Hazzard kind of mixed with a little bit of little Three Stooges, a little bit, humor.
Yeah, I just saw trending, and I didn't really look into it, and I don't care, but I heard that the whole news thing with Bubba Watson ended up being a hoax. Like, it ended up just being the actual rope that you pull your garage door down with. So I don't want to go too deep in that, but I know with him basically saying, hey, I don't want the Confederate flag down here. I will say from the South that people can associate what they want with certain things. There's a large contingent of people in the South where they're not saying we want slavery, we're, anti-Northern or any of that other kind of stuff so much as the Confederacy just meant the South, because, you had, constitutionally speaking, the ability to succeed from the United States. People don't like it. You get the Civil War, then people say it's slavery. You get all this kind of stuff. And I'm no historian, but I know that a lot of people in the South, if they had that on their car, it was just saying, I'm from the South. It's not, oh, I believe in this, this, or this. So when you bring that up, and you bring up, of course, we had talked about before with the Dukes of Hazzard, the General Lee, it's like, wow, so this isn't a Southern, roots kind of movie, but it has a Southern feel to it. That being said, I don't think it's honestly that heavy, that prevalent, where it's going to offend anybody watching it. It's just a road race movie with buddies. That's it. No special effects, practical effects, stunts, a lot of car crashes. That's the way I look at it. What do you think?
Like I said, this is I watch this with my friend all the time. This is your car movie. This is if you're not in the cars and you can't take jokes, you're not into like kind of pervy little semi cutesy pervy humor, then this won't be a movie for you. But I mean, this is one of my top movies of this year, or just in general. I love this movie. The sequels were horrible. Don't watch them. I'll just say that. Don't even waste your time. If you haven't watched them, don't watch it. And Sally Fields in the second one just basically becomes a Karen, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. But yeah, I love this movie. I love the car scenes. I love just the driving around, the stunts, and everything. No freaking CG at all. These are actually people rolling the cars in the car, doing the jumps. I always wonder, like, they had to do this about 5 different Trans Ams, just to jump that bridge.
Yep.
I mean, just the subtle jokes here too, man. It's lovely. He's like, where were you at? Oh, we're just playing bridge.
I know. Well, here's something I wanted to bring up that I wanted to mention because it sounds silly, and I haven't looked it up at all. But obviously, I have a love-hate relationship with the James Bond movie, The Man with the Golden Gun. And of course, I feel very strongly about Christopher Lee as a big-time screen presence. And of course, he plays Scaramanga, the Man with the Golden Gun. And there's times when this movie, The Man with the Golden Gun, feels very sinister. But I'm going, God, this was 3, 4, 5 years before this movie. And I'm like, they did the tilt-a-whirl in that one. You get a bridge jump in here. They have, in this movie, I think lots of things that I go, God, did they rip off Man with the Golden Gun? Because the Man with the Golden Gun, you get the Louisiana sheriff who's just, over the top. And I go, yeah, that's just like the guy in Smokey and the Bandit, Jackie Gleason's character. And I go, wait a minute, that wasn't until like 4 or 5 years later. And so I know it wasn't written by the same people or anything like that, but it just made me go, I couldn't help but notice that was in there, the types of stuff. And of course, everyone always goes back to Steve McQueen and Bullet and that whole car chase scene. And I think 1 or 2 others there in the 60s or early 70s that don't get mentioned often. But I mean, gosh, I just think that no matter where they got their inspiration from, let's call it, Smokey and the Bandit, like I say, is the reason why movies like The Fast and the Furious can come out. Hey, sexy cars, sexy people in the movie, but really it's about driving, and everything else is eye candy to me. And this movie, technically, really, I don't think Doctor had a lot of eye candy. I do think with you, what you're saying with the stunts and all that, that was spot on. Even the stuff with the rigs. What did you think of that?
The rigs were actually pretty good. Well, it's cool scenes with the rigs. There's where they were racing the rigs in the beginning. I thought that was kind of cool. That's typical back then. Even today, that's what people did back then. You would go to parks, you'd hang out, have a few beers with your friends, your family get together, or you go out to the tractor pulls and all stuff. So I mean, people still do that today. As far as that, I thought that was kind of cool that seeing the rigs though. A lot of those rigs, those designs, you don't see them on the road anymore like that. Some of the older styles. So that's always cool seeing those. Yeah, I mean, there also the whole convoy stuff was good. I love that scene too. And like I said, the idea of this is like, yeah, it's kind of hokey when you think about it. But like I said, when he's in there driving that Trans Am, and he's just just basically driving around, making the cops look like idiots. It's like I said, you get that whole Dukes of Hazzard feeling to it. It's like, which really helps the movie too. And yeah, can you imagine this not having anything like that in this movie? I wouldn't like it as much, 'cause
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I think too, it really is a road movie. It's not, we're gonna have an action sequence, we're gonna stop all the time. No, most of this movie, they're driving and driving and driving.
It's slapstick. That's what it is. It's a slapstick comedy with cars, and I'm just driving. It's just just showing off how awesome the Trans Am is.
Yep. Well, we have a surprise guest, ladies and gentlemen. None other than Engelberg from I Love Comics and about 16 other channels. But Engelberg, yeah.
We just keep growing and growing. Yes, I keep getting more and more.
Eric Breen today. Dang it.
Hey, yeah, I love this film. I wanted to get in on it, man. It's freaking brilliant. I heard a little bit about what you guys were talking about. I like the fact that you brought up the some bitch.
Some bitch.
Some bitch.
Everybody said that.
Some bitch. Yeah, you just don't always have to say it. That's one of the great abbreviations of the South. There's some. I heard you touch on a whole bunch of stuff that I was like, yeah, okay, good one. The holding of the hat, the whole 9 yards. Somebody else in the comment I saw mentioned Mel Blanc did some voiceovers. This, I remember at the time, it was I was raised very Southern. You met my family. You saw at Knoll Street. Yeah, Knoll Street was my family. We used to own the house on the corner, and that went to a cousin. And then we were in the center in this big kind of almost like black house because the and then my other cousins had the houses down the road, and this was a big debate: Smokey and the Bandit or Star Wars. It was like one or the two for whatever was the best movie of the year, and this one's a hell of a lot of fun. I love this film. To me, this is pinnacle Burt Reynolds.
I agree, and I think the one comment that I wanted to ask you about, or kind of just let you talk about it, is I just mentioned to RDB that for me, I hadn't seen this movie in probably 25 years, and I didn't remember a damn thing about it. I didn't remember Fred. I knew Jerry Reed was in it, of course, and Sally Field and all that stuff. I didn't remember hardly any of the scenes at all. But as I watched this movie, I went, "Holy crap!" I remember everything that's going on with it. And I thought,
right back in.
Because it's not a movie that I go, man, I feel like watching me some Smokey and the Bandit. But I just remember as a kid, the toilet paper stick into him as he's walking out was like the funniest thing ever. Now as an adult, I think it's dumb, but back then it's cute. And I just go, this movie's not a laugh riot kind of thing, but it just, I don't know, there's something very chill about it that allows you to kind of remember it. I think
it's what I would call endlessly watchable. Because I don't think it's a great film, as in like if you were to put it up against Godfather or something like that.
Well,
but
I never watched over Godfather.
That's the thing. Hey, look, in 1995, two great films came out. One that was incredibly well made, and you could look at it and you go, "Wow, that's a marvel of movie production," and one that just is infinitely watchable. One of them's called Braveheart. The other one's called Billy Madison. I wouldn't say, one was as well put together, but I mean, it's just a movie that you can watch real easy. And that's what Smokey and the Bandit was. And my goodness gracious, Sally Fields was cute.
Yes.
It's just such a fun film. I watched these last year we did this when Burt Reynolds passed?
Yeah, when we did our Rest in Peace video.
Yeah, I actually did a Smokey and the Bandit marathon. I saw the first one, saw the second one, then, okay, what the hell? Let me watch the third one. Don't do that.
Why do you watch
Do not do that. Go twice. You could get away with two, but once you hit that third one, it's like, oh, God, no.
I think Jim would disagree.
You stop after one.
The second one is tolerable. The third one is garbage.
Oh, a little bit tolerable. I watched it and I was like, okay, they're moving an elephant instead of beer this time. I was like, what? Is this a remake?
I can't argue with them. On that one. If you say that the second one's unwatchable, it just freaking is. Jackie Gleason, he's comic gold on this one. And of course, the barbecue your ass line. Yeah, that was classic. They actually had that in the trailer, if you remember. I'm gonna barbecue your, and then they would just cut off. One of my favorite lines is, Sheriff, the letters FO mean anything to you?
I like the other one. You guys brought up the toilet paper where he's walking out, and then she's like, "Oh, she thinks toilet paper as well." He's like, "Nice ass." Turns around and looks at her. I'm thinking like, this guy is he's a perv. He is rude, and he's just so arrogant. It's just, I'm thinking like, but he's got some of the best lines in this whole entire movie throughout this. And he's like, yeah, he's like, you did it on purpose. And the guy's door knocked off. He tells his son, put the good door, bring it in there. I was like, what? It's evidence. He's like, no, put it in.
Yeah, the ever dwindling police car. That it's just getting pieces knocked off more and more as it goes.
And I love that. And I wonder if John Hughes got the idea for that Trainspotting's automobile with the whole car on fire.
It's hard to say, and I think we'll go around the horn here. I know you just came in, so I know we may talk about this a little bit more tonight, but obviously feel free to set up. I think for me, my final thoughts on this is that you're right. It's a very rewatchable movie. I enjoyed it a bit more than I thought I would, because again, it's not something that I would have said, "Oh, let me go watch it." I never hated it, but I just was like, "Wow, this really is more fun than I remembered." But I gotta say this, and you mentioned the South, growing up in the South. This is a very Southern movie, and I don't mean redneckish, but the way you talk to men or women, the way you'd kind of flirt openly, the nice ass thing, RDV, you're mentioning, stuff like that happened, but it wasn't pervy. It was just kind of a certain Southern charm where you're very particular. And the whole, "Thank you, ma'am, thank you, sir," sort of stuff, that wasn't nonsense. Everybody said, "Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am," in the South, to your teachers, to cops, to anybody in public service, that if you're out. And I think that started to fade a little bit when we got to be teenagers, because I know I was raised that way. I know he was too. But then after a while, you got to a point where you saw it wasn't there. And, you'd hear the older people go, "Oh, these dumb kids these days, they don't have no self-respect no more. They don't talk." And it's like, here in this movie, I go, yeah, it really, really was like that all the time. And it wasn't a fake thing or a bullshit thing. It was the real deal. So definitely, that whole Southern charm thing was there. It was nice to kind of see that back there on there, how polite you can be, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a pushover,
Well, the beginning of scene where you see he's going to get Cledus. He stops. He pulls in with a semi, and his wife. It's basically Cledus' wife's like, "No, you can't go see me." He's like, kind of moves her out of the way, and he's like, "Will you look at me?" He's like, "I can't look at you. We got the hair curlers in," and kind of. He's just making comments about that the whole entire time. He's like, "I need him here." He's like, "What? You need to raise more army?" They had enough kids everywhere. Just around.
Any other final thoughts there, Doctor, before we pass over to E?
I gotta say this. Bring it back to the whole Star Wars Smokey and Bandit. We'll see tonight who wins out.
I like it. You're teasing everybody for the top 10 at 8 o'clock here. All right, yeah. Like I said, I know you're joining. We may talk about this a little bit more tonight, but what else would you like to get off your chest? And
I just wanted to enjoy, because first of all, not only, of course, Smokey and the Bandit, I'm a Burt Reynolds fan, and still haven't seen Navajo Joe, but I'm still a Burt Reynolds fan. But this, I told you. But you mentioned the South and the way people talked with each other. It is that it's a place where, roles were well defined, but not in the way that a lot of people think, because a lot of people think that, the Southerners were just, bigotry all over the place. But men were supposed to be men and women were supposed to be women, but women had a lot of control in the family.
What was it?
That is absolutely. If you met my granny, sweet as the day is long, the nicest woman you would have ever met. But when she put her foot down, the family listened. I'm very much used to growing up and being around strong women. So yeah, while the roles were definitely set, that should never be taken as any kind of misogynist or even racist kind of thing.
It's not.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. But no, this is a thoroughly entertaining film. This made me want to Trans Am, and then watching people with Trans Am struggle to keep those things running made me not want to Trans Am. So,
Yep.
Yeah, reality set in. But no, absolutely fan freaking tastic.
I mean,
yeah.
And then what you're talking about there, he brought some Burt Reynolds, his character Bandit in the movie. He talks about depending where you go, what state you're going, what you say can make you sound like an idiot.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. You're right. They did have that line in there, and that's absolutely true. And I think that was kind of like a good observation in the sense that that's like the end joke. People know that. So I think that's a good way for all the people up north that say "use guys" and all that crap from New York that we despised in the South. Yeah.
And also, there's no way you came. No way you came from my lawn. As soon as I get home, first thing I'm gonna do is
smack your mom. Yeah.
Yeah. The line he says, it depends on what part of the country you're standing in as to just how dumb you are.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk more about this a little bit later tonight. So we're going to sign off here and set up for the Top 10 Tuesdays, which we'll turn right around and send that link out here shortly. So, E, thanks for showing up. I'm glad you're able to add to that. It's wow, we're finally actually talked about this movie. It's been so long. That's really cool.
Yeah, if you were drinking Coors back then, you weren't drinking the fancy little bottle beers that had little cooler bottles. Those are the fancy ones.
Collect cans and turn them in and get money for it. Yeah. So guys, thanks for showing up. LK was definitely very active, mentioning the alcohol levels about that. I thought it was licensing, something like that. I honestly don't recall the specifics, but I just knew, okay, they're trying to do this, and that's probably not on the, as we'd say in the South, up and up. So yeah, kind of fun stuff there too. Guys, thanks for showing up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for getting the word out about the Xtreme Movie Show and sharing it with people and getting more people signing up there too. We're barreling down that road to get monetized, so we're really looking forward to that. We'll see you guys here shortly at Top 10 Tuesdays. Tonight will be 1977. So for E, for RDV, myself, good night, and of course, stay extreme.
Stay extreme.
Let's stay alive tonight.
Good night, everybody.